Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Watchdives WD1863. This watch is available from watchdives.com for €124. So firstly, let's look at the case that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in this plastic case which has carbon fibre effect, and on the lid we have an embossed Watchdives shield. However, this is a disappointment because Watchdives haven't updated it to the Trident shield logo, and there's a lack of continuity between the watch, the travel case and the accessories that come with it. So with the watch, Watchdives also gift this FKM fluoro rubber strap, smooth on the top side and underside, and it has grooves in it to aid cutting it to length, plenty of holes in the flanks to allow for getting the correct fit. Stainless steel quick release spring bar, which is good because that negates the need for a spring bar tool in order to fit the strap, but however I think it could be enhanced if it had curved ends to specifically fit the head of this WD1863 piece rather than straight ends, which will give a gap. So this will fit the clasp used on the WD1863. I'll show you the other side. As you can see, this is smooth on the top side and underside, has plenty of grooves in it and also plenty of holes in the flanks to get the perfect fit. It will fit up to a maximum of an 8-inch wrist size, and again we have quick release stainless steel spring bars used, which is good. It's just a shame it's not a curved end FKM rubber strap. In terms of the stiffness, it feels more stiff than a silicone rubber strap, and that's a characteristic of FKM fluoro rubber. It does feel more like vulcanized rubber, alternatively natural rubber. The benefit of FKM rubber over silicone is it's harder and therefore it's more robust. It will last for a longer length of time than silicone rubber, although they do take more breaking in. But with daily wear, they do become very soft and supple, and it's good to see Watchdives didn't use the cost-cutting measure of a silicone rubber strap, which would be lower quality. So with the watch, you get this Watchdives branded owner's instruction manual, which details the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz. Clear, concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and I'm pleased to see the updated Watchdives Trident shield emblem and also the Watchdives logo, which matches the watch. And you also get this warranty card, which again is correctly branded with the updated Trident shield emblem. But on the reverse, it's a disappointment that they haven't stamped it, filled in the date of purchase and the reference number of the piece. But however, on a positive note, I'm pleased to report the WD1863 is covered by a 2-year international warranty, which is good at this price point. You also get this bracelet resizing tool, which has a screwed in stainless steel pin, and that's replaceable if it becomes bent. It's got a die cast steel body to it and also a knurled bolt, as you can see, which is finished to a good standard. And also Watchdives include a resealable bag with 3 stainless steel push pin tips. So if you accidentally get the alignment incorrect when pushing out the push pins in the bracelet, you have 3 spare pins, and they're easy to replace because they simply screw into the body of the steel bolt. And lastly, they also include a spring bar tool, which has a push pin at one end and a 2-prong fork at the other for removing the bracelet if you want to fit the FKM rubber strap with the quick release spring bars. So good to get those accessories included. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, the WD1863 is clearly an homage to the Omega Speedmaster. Very similar proportions to the Speedmaster. We have a 41mm case diameter. Now, the thing to note about the WD1863 is the bezel is smaller than the WD1861 and 1862 respectively. Watchdives have slimmed it down to 39mm. So we're looking at a 41mm head of the piece, but the bezel is smaller than the head of the piece. It's 39mm diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 46.1mm and a thickness of 13mm. The lug width is 20mm and the bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push clasp. And as you can see, the 2-button push clasp is signed to high standard with the Watchdives Trident shield emblem engraved. Nice mirror polished large bevel to it, which marks the transition between the outer body and the flanks to the 2-button push clasp. I'm pleased to see 5 micro adjustment holes in the flanks because that allows for fine tuning the length in the absence of half links in the bracelet. This bracelet, which is Speedmaster style, it could be further enhanced because they've only used full-size links. I think that if they added a half link either side of the clasp, that would improve it to get the perfect fit, but in the absence of half links, the 5 micro adjustment holes in the flanks does suffice. Nice heavy gauge to the 316L grade stainless steel, and there's a beautiful lustre to the brushed satin finishing. No sharp edges, doesn't have sharp corners to it, so the exterior of the body of the clasp is well finished. We have a double domed sapphire crystal which has a boxed top hat profile to it and clear AR coating on the underside. Very aesthetically pleasing. It does give the aesthetic of a Hesselite domed crystal used on the Speedmaster, alternatively a double domed boxed top hat sapphire crystal. So the clarity is good, the legibility is good, the clear AR coating does an excellent job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the boxed top hat style crystal. With regards to the dial, it has a matte black finish and recessed concave subdials as per the Speedmaster, so the dial layout is very good because it has good symmetry, and also the quality of the printing of the BGW9 printed indices is excellent. Quality of the white paint on the handset is good and the hands are correctly proportioned. The subdial hands are also correctly sized, and the white minute ticks and second ticks on the dial are printed in high definition printing. So I like the definition, the sharpness of the font used on the Watchdives Chronograph professional text, and also the emblem shield, the trident shield is very well printed, no blurry text, and also the quality of the white paint is very sharp and crisp. So the dial layout is good, the legibility is good, the symmetry is good, the functionality of it is good because you can read the time and also the chronograph very well. The tachymeter scale is also very well executed because it has a nice metallic finish to it, and also the 500 tachymeter scale is correct. The alignment of the bezel is good. The 60 minutes on the tachymeter aligns with the 12 o'clock index on the dial and the 60-minute ticks on the chaptering. I prefer the aluminium bezel insert with a metallic silver finish to the Arabic numerals and also the tachymeter printed text to the Pagani Design PD1701, which uses a ceramic bezel insert because the Speedmaster uses a aluminium bezel insert, and bear in mind this is an homage to the Speedmaster. The PD1701 doesn't look correct with a ceramic bezel insert, although it is more scratch resistant. I prefer an aluminium bezel insert as per the Speedmaster. 39mm for the diameter is correct, and this does look better. It's more aesthetically pleasing, it looks better proportioned than the bezel used on the WD1861 and 1862 respectively, which had a larger bezel fitted to the 41mm case. By making the bezel smaller at 39, it gives the impression of this being a smaller head of the piece. It wears more like a 39 or a 40mm piece rather than the 41, and visually the 39mm bezel looks more like a Speedmaster bezel, so they've improved the proportions of the piece by reducing the bezel. Also, the profile of the double dome sapphire crystal is correct. It has a nice boxed top hat profile to it which projects above the flat aluminium bezel. The stainless steel portion of the bezel itself is mirror polished to a flawless standard on the edges to it, and it has a nice chamfer, so it's deburred very well, doesn't have a sharp edge to it, very aesthetically pleasing and also very well executed. Now, with regards to the finishing to the head of the piece, the flanks have a longitudinal brushed satin finish which is done very well, nice fine grain to it, and also the quality of the mirror polishing to the lyre lugs, the twisted lugs as per an Amiga Speedmaster, is done very well. Mirror polishing is good. The tips of the lugs are deburred, so no sharp edges, but however, I will tell you about the negatives of the finishing. On the undercut to the flank of the case, this curved undercut on the underside to the head of the piece, there is a sharp edge the full length of the left-hand flank, and disappointingly, on the left-hand flank, the right-hand flank with the pushers and crown, we've also got a sharp edge here and a sharp edge here. And this sharp edge runs the full length of the right-hand flank of the case and the left-hand flank. And this is wholly unacceptable at €124. Now, the Pagani Design PD1701, which is also a Speedmaster homage, is a poorly executed piece because the bracelet has sharp links, but the head of the piece is deburred to a satisfactory standard. It doesn't have sharp edges to the undercuts to the flanks. So the quality of the finishing in terms of deburring, removing the sharp edges from the undercut, is better on the Pagani Design PD1701. But the quality of the mirror polishing and the brushed satin finishing to this piece is equal quality and excellent. So disappointing there's a sharp edge to the undercut to the right and left hand flanks. So what are the other negatives? The bracelet is very poor quality on this piece. I'll show you why. Female pivoted end links are the correct choice because they allow for a good snug fit. The end link in the bracelet can pull close to the wrist, so that's good. The problem is they're very poorly machined because if you look, we've got lateral side-side play, up and down play, longitudinal play, play in every single direction. And we're not talking about slight play. It is significant play on the female pivoted end links. The centre link in the bracelets, the hole is drilled in it too large, and therefore there's a poor tolerance, a poor interface fit around the spring bar. So the spring bar is too loose, and as you can see, inside, the spring bar is loose inside the hole. It's got longitudinal play, lateral play, and up and down play. Play in every single direction, so it rattles, and it makes an annoying clicking sound when you wear the watch on wrist. Let's check the other side for continuity, because when I level criticism at a brand, I like to be fair rather than unfair, and I like to be unbiased. So as you can see, significant play. This is a lot of play. Now bear in mind, we're not looking at a low tier piece costing below €100. This is €124. It is going head to head directly with the Pagani design PD1701, which is a less expensive piece. So again, lateral side-to-side play, longitudinal play, up and down play, play in every single direction. So Watchdives have simply drilled a hole in the centre link in the bracelet, which is too large for the spring bar, and therefore there isn't an interference fit. It's a sloppy fit, as you can see, and it rattles significantly. Left and right side-to-side play. Now that's not the only problem. The brush satin finishing to the bracelet on the top side and underside is good. The mirror polishing to the flanks is good. There are no sharp edges to the edges of the flanks, so the top side and the underside to the flanks of the bracelet are good. They've been deburred to a satisfactory standard, so that is good. But however, the centre links in the bracelet are sharp, both on the top side and the underside. They have sharp edges in the centre of the bracelet. Now on the underside it's noticeable because the sharp edges in the centre links of the bracelet scratch the wrist, and they also pull arm hairs. So this bracelet is uncomfortable to wear for two reasons. It will scratch your wrist because of the sharp edges, and also pull your arm hairs because your arm hairs get caught by the sharp edges and in the gaps in between the links. And it rattles. Just look at the play. Every single one of the push pin links has significant play. Longitudinal play, lateral side-side play, up and down play, play in every single direction. So it's a sloppy bracelet. It's got huge play in every single one of the push pin links. Had they used screw pins, that would have tightened up the play in the bracelet links, and it wouldn't have been so sloppy. I'll just check the other side for continuity, because again, when I level criticism at a brand, I like to be fair and unbiased rather than unfair and biased. And as you can see, every single one of the links has significant play in it. And we're looking at play in every direction. Just look at the amount of play. Lateral side-to-side play, which clicks, up and down play, longitudinal play. And every single one of the links has this dreadful play. And over the length of the bracelet, the cumulative effect of all that play is the bracelet flexes too much. There's too much articulation. Now on a positive note, there's no stiff links because of course there's so much play in it that none of the links kink. So the articulation is smooth, and it does move very smoothly due to the excess play. So it's not a stiff bracelet, but the tolerances are very poor and it rattles terribly. So what we're looking at is a good quality head of the piece on a poor quality bracelet. So let's look at the clasp. So solid 316L grade stainless steel milled clasp, as one would expect. Nice heavy gauge to it. Quality of the two pushers is good, no sharp edges. Light resistance to the spring-loaded pushers. So solid milled 316L grade stainless steel. Brush satin finishing is longitudinal and well finished. No sharp corners to it. But unfortunately, we've got play in all three of the hinge pins. And as you can see, the play is significant, just like the end links in the female pivoted end links. The pin that goes through, connecting the end of the bracelet, the hinge pin, to the body of the solid mill clasp has longitudinal play, lateral side-side play, and up and down play, so it rattles. The centre pin, the main hinge pin, also has longitudinal, lateral, side-to-side play, because they've simply drilled the hole too big in the left-hand portion of the mill clasp. The right-hand hinge pin, again, look at the amount of play. This is significant. Now, one can be magnanimous about this kind of poor QC and poor tolerance on a piece which is below €100. One has to expect some cost-cutting measures. But at €124, this kind of play is wholly unacceptable. This is very disappointing. It's the kind of play one would expect on a low-tip piece costing €50. So 3 hinge pins, all with excessive play, and of course the solid mill clasp is sloppy as a result, but it does snap shut with a nice positive click, and it does open when one presses the 2 pushers. Now, that's not the only problem. The solid mill clasp, the right hand portion of it has been deburred to a satisfactory standard, so there's no sharp edges to the right hand portion. The left hand portion has sharp edges. The 2 top edges to the flanks of the left hand portion have sharp edges. The 2 underside edges of the left hand portion have sharp edges. So the left hand portion has 4 sharp edges. The 2 top edges and the 2 lower edges of the flanks are sharp. And it's noticeable because even when it's closed, and this is on wrist, you can see that the inner portion, which is the left hand portion of the mill clasp, you see how it projects from the right hand portion. So you've got this sharp edge on both sides of the flanks, and this rubs against the wrist, and it is noticeable. It scratches your wrist. So poor quality finishing to the left hand portion. I'll show you the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters. Nice concentric CNC lathe tool machining, which refracts the light, and the circumference is mirror polished to a flawless standard. The milled slots are well executed. They're well machined and well finished. No sharp edges or burrs to the milled slots in the CNC lathe tool machined case back. Flat centre section is sterile, so this is very comfortable and sits against the wrist very snug because it's got a flat profile to it rather than being a bubble back profile to it. So it's low profile enough at 100 metres of water resistance, and this piece is 13mm thick. So they've made the correct decision by not using a bubble back case back, bearing in mind this is a VK63 Mecha Quartz powered piece. The female pitted end links are a good tight fit to the head of the piece, so the end links themselves, which are solid, are good. There's no extra play. They don't move around inside the head of the piece. So the quality of the end links themselves are good. It's the bracelet centre link fit, the interference fit into the female pivoted end link is the problem. The hole is drilled too large for the spring bar. So case back is good, but the quality of the finishing to the underside of the case is poor because of the sharp edges on the flanks. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, and I'm pleased to report that I can slide 2 fingers underneath the bracelet and clasp, and that means this will fit up to a 9-inch wrist. So you have no worries whatsoever if you are a collector with a larger wrist of 8 inches plus. This bracelet will suffice, plenty of links, and this is on the maximum of 6 micro adjustments, so this is the maximum size. Now, proportions to the head of the piece are excellent. 20mm is the correct lug width for a 41mm head of the piece, and they've got the taper proportions correct. 20:16 is the industry standard. It is perfection personified. So bracelet taper is good. Female pivoted end link is the correct decision rather than a male end link because it pulls the bracelet snug to the wrist. Nice curved profile to the undercuts, to the flanks, as you can see, because we've got minimal gap beneath the tips, which are deburred good, so there's no sharp edges or corners to the tips of the lyre lugs, the twisted Amiga style lugs. So undercut is good, the profile of the case is good, 13mm is the sweet spot, and it's very good. It feels balanced because it doesn't feel like a top heavy piece despite having a tall boxed top hat profile sapphire crystal, and the 39mm bezel is good because it looks like a Speedmaster with a 41mm head of the piece but a smaller bezel at 39. So aesthetically pleasing, and also proportions are correct. 46.1 is a nice compact lug to lug, so if you're a collector with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you'll find the 46.1 lug to lug fits well, no overhang on the lugs. If you're a collector with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches, you'll also find 46 works well because it wraps around the wrist, it curves around the wrist due to the lyre lugs having a curved profile rather than sitting on top of the wrist like a flat slab of 316L grade stainless steel. So AR coating works very well on the underside of the boxed top hat sapphire crystal. Clarity is good, legibility is good. The other thing I like is the rehort on this WD1863 is slimmer than on the 1861 and 1862 respectively. So the benefit of that is The dial on this piece sits closer to the underside of the sapphire crystal. With the WD1861 and 1862 respectively, the dial was sunk deeper, so there was a thicker retort, and that reduced the legibility. The clarity wasn't as good. And this is good, because one can clearly see the white minute ticks on the chapter ring, but the retort is slim, and there is minimal distortion when one looks at an oblique angle through the sapphire crystal. So the clarity of the double dome boxed top hat profile crystal is outstanding, and the legibility of the white handset and the white hands on the subdials is also clearly legible. Good quality crystal, good quality AR coating. Just disappointing about the sharp edge to the undercut to the left hand and right hand flanks, because it is noticeably sharp, and when you flex the wrist you can feel the sharp edge cutting into your wrist due to the flat case back, because it sits very snug to the wrist. So it's just a shame that they haven't deburred the left and right hand flanks, the undercuts, correctly. Right, so let's test the chronograph complication. So the top pusher activates the chronograph complication. You'll see the arrowhead tip to the white chronograph hand begins to tick around the dial. Pressing the top pusher has a nice firm spring-loaded action to it. It feels solid, which is a characteristic of the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz. Pushing the top pusher again stops it. So nice crisp click to the chronograph complication. I like the feeling of the VK63. Pressing the lower pusher will reset the chronograph complication. You'll see the arrowhead chronograph hand fly back to 12 o'clock and the 60-minute tick on the chapter ring. Now, disappointing QC here, because if you look closely at the arrowhead tip to the chronograph hand, you can see it has reset at 12 o'clock, but it's slightly to the right. Now I'm just going to check it 2 more times, because when I level criticism at a brand, I like to be fair rather than unfair, and I like to be unbiased. So this is something I want to check 2 more times for consistency. Because sometimes you can get defects like the chronograph hand doesn't reset bang on every single time, but 3 out of 3 times will prove it. Either it does or it doesn't. So we're now going to reset, and again, it's a fraction to the right of the 12 o'clock minute, the 12 o'clock index, the 60-minute tick. Slightly to the right of it. I'm just going to check it 1 more time. Now this time I'm going to allow the chronograph hand to move round to 50 on the dial, because I want to give it the full flyback just to see if that makes a difference, because sometimes with the VK63, for example, if you reset it from 10, it will fly back, but because the hand doesn't have so far to fly back, it will land in a different position. When it's resetting from 50 and travelling more around the dial, sometimes that will move the chronograph hand. It won't reset bang on 12 o'clock or the 60-minute tick. So I'm just going to allow it to run round to 50 seconds and then stop it, and then we'll fly it back and just see if the alignment is consistently 3 out of 3 times in all positions incorrect. So we're now coming up to 50 seconds on the dial, and I'm just going to stop it. Right, so now it's going to fly back anti-clockwise. Right, so as you can see, it's still landed slightly to the right of the 12 o'clock index and the 60-minute tick on the chapter ring. So 3 out of 3 times. This is wholly unacceptable. The Pagani Design PD1701 uses the same VK63 Mecha Quartz. But one thing I want to give credit to Pagani Design for, they do have QC issues, a plethora of QC issues, including the bracelet. It has sharp links on the PD1701. One thing they get correct is the alignment of the second hand, the chronograph hand. It flies back bang on 12 o'clock, bang on the 60-minute tick every single time. I've reviewed several versions of the PD1701, and I can tell you every single time the chronograph hand is correct. It's very simple to get it correct. When a watchmaker sets the chronograph hand, they simply set it bang on 12 o'clock, and if they get it incorrect, they remove it and put it back on. The problem with the VK63 is, unlike other chronograph movements, you cannot reset the alignment by pressing the pushers. It's not possible to do that with the VK63. The only way you can correct the misalignment is you have to physically remove the movement from the head of the piece, and then you have to remove the chronograph hand and set it back down on the cannon pinion manually, and then of course replace the movement back into the head of the piece. So it's not possible to reset it, the alignments with the pushers, and that's a disappointing aspect because it's so easy to get correct. Pagani Design get it correct on the PD1701 every single time. So slight misalignment, and it is noticeable 3 out of 3 times. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers of BGW9 on the printed indices and also the handset. I like the legibility of the white handset in daylight conditions. Now, I want to give credit to Watchdives because they've got the Lume colour tone match in daylight conditions correct. I previously reviewed the WD1863, which is the Speedmaster Homage, and I was highly critical of the Lume colour tone mismatch between the handset and the applied indices. But on this piece, the WD1863, the white tone on the hand and also on the indices which are printed are both the same white colour tone. We don't have a cream dial and white indices, white hands. Now, 5 to 6 layers of BGW9 also matches in the dark because we're clearly looking at the exciter glowing with the same blue tone on the printed indices and also the handset. So 5 to 6 on the hands, 5 to 6 layers on the indices. Legibility is good. The arrowhead tip to the chronograph hand is also fully lumed, which is good. And it will continue to glow for a good length of time. It's not fading whatsoever. This is the kind of performance one expects at this price point, €124. And I'm pleased to see that unlike Pagani design, Watchdives haven't cut any corners with regards to the quality of the Superluminova they're using. This Superluminova definitely has the edge over the PD1701, which has poor quality Superluminova on the dial. So it's a better piece than the Pagani designed PD1701 due to the quality of the BGW9. And as you can see, it's not fading whatsoever. This is outstanding quality Superluminova. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So you'll all be familiar with the Seiko VK63. So let's test the screw down crown execution of it and the time setting to see how smooth it is. So solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finish to it, matte speed blasted effect to it, the edge of it, the circumference is mirror polished, and the Watchdives Trident shield is very well engraved. So very nicely finished, no sharp edges to it, nice chamfer to it, so it doesn't have sharp points to the teeth of the coin edge finishing. It feels smooth to unscrew, but however, it's not silky smooth. There is room for improvements. There is some slight friction, so I can feel the interface of the internal thread of the stainless steel crown rubbing against the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. It does feel smooth, but not silky smooth. One can also feel the friction of the rubber O-rings. There's one rubber O-ring inside the crown and a second rubber O-ring gasket inside the crown tube. So it's smooth, minimal number of turns to unscrew it. Now, the negative of using the VK63 is there is a date complication. The date wheel is still present beneath the dial, but unlike the Pagani designed PD1701, there isn't a date window at 4 o'clock. But if I pull out the crown to the first click position, it's a phantom date setting position. When I rotate the crown clockwise, you can feel the date wheel clicking over. The quick set complication still works beneath the dial. So you can feel the clicks and also hear the clicks of the date wheel clicking round. So that's the negative. There is a phantom date setting position. Pulling it out to the second click hacks the movement. If you look at the 6 o'clock subdial, you can see the subdial second hand has now stopped dead. So it's possible to set the time precisely to the second. So nice light resistance to the gearing in the VK63 because it has 0 joules. So very low friction movement, and the meshing of the gearing is very good. It feels smooth clockwise and anti-clockwise. Minimal back play when one rotates the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise. So light resistance to it, but it does feel smooth both clockwise and anti-clockwise when setting the time. So I like it. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse mecha quartz movement. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and if you look closely at the 6 o'clock subdial, you can see the second hand subdial is clicking around the subdial once again. Let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup. So there's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So the quality control, the machining, the tolerances of these threads on the screw down crown are good. 100 meters of hermetic seal is perfectly acceptable for a chronograph. It's just not silky smooth, so there is room for some refinement with regards to the tolerances, but it is good enough. Right, so the movement. This is powered by the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz, which is made in Japan. It has 0 joules. It has hacking and a quick set date complication, which I've demonstrated. The negative is that there is a phantom date setting position. The first click is the date complication. 3-year battery life is very good, and the stated accuracy is plus or minus 20 seconds per month. Just think about that for a moment. That's not plus or minus 20 seconds per day or per week. That is plus or minus 20 seconds per month. So better than plus or minus 1 second per day accuracy, which is outstanding at this price point. So it's an accurate movement with a long 3-year battery life, reliable, well-proven workhorse Mecha Quartz movement made in Japan. The correct choice for this piece. I really like the VK63. No reliability issues whatsoever. Build quality is good. Quality control is good. But however, the negative is that Watchdives aren't setting the chronograph hand correctly aligned on the WD1863. And this one, 3 out of 3 times, it always resets slightly to the right by a fraction, which is wholly unacceptable. Pagani Design can get it right at €100. That is the price point of the PD1701. It is less expensive than this piece at 124. But if you look, you can see it always resets slightly to the right. And this is simply the watchmaker's manual error. When they set the chronograph hand on the Canon pinion, they set it a fraction to the right instead of bang on 60 seconds, bang on the 12 o'clock index. So it's a manual error. It's not an error down to the quality control, the build quality, or the reliability of the Seiko VK63. Pagani Design are using the exact same movement made in Japan in their PD1701. The alignment is 100% correct every single time. So it's not the movement's fault, it is Watchdives' fault, and I'm levelling the criticism at their build quality and quality control. So good quality movement in a good quality head of the piece on a poor quality bracelet, which is sloppy. And of course we've got the problem with the sharp edges to the undercuts to the case, the flanks, and also the left hand portion of the solid mill clasp has 4 sharp edges, 2 on the top side, 2 on the underside, so all 4 edges are sharp. And this is very disappointing because, as I've detailed, this is €124. We're not looking at a piece which is below €100, and one could be magnanimous about these kind of cost cutting measures. So difficult piece to weigh up because we've got a good quality head of the piece with a BGW9 but on a poor quality bracelet. So I'm going to say it's okay quality and okay value at €124. I can't say good quality and I can't say excellent quality because of the chronograph hand misalignment and the sharp edges and the sloppy bracelet. And I can't say excellent or good value at €124 because this is going directly head to head with a PD1701, which is €100. I will say it does have the edge over it because of the BGW9 is better quality, and I think that the head of this piece is better quality than the Pagani Design PD1701 because the AR coating and the BGW9 are better. Also the proportions are better with a 39mm bezel, so head of the piece is better than the PD1701, but the truth is the bracelet is poor. This is equal quality to the poor quality bracelet on the PD1701, which also has the same problem of sharp edges to the centre links, both on the top side and the underside, and it is also a sloppy bracelet with too much play in the end links. So I'd like to see a V2 version of this WD1863 and Watchdives refine it, correct the alignment on the chronograph hand, remove the sharp edges to the undercut of the flanks, and definitely improve the bracelet. Ideally with screw pins rather than push pins, but definitely tighten up the tolerances because they're just dreadful. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Watchdives WD1863. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.